Yo, Dragon Ballers, real quick, I need to let you guys know about two events that are coming up soon, being hosted by PPG. All the info will be down in the description, but we have the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fest from March 26th to the 27th. This is going to be the first ever event where they are trying out the sideboarded best of one format. Besides that, it'll just be a celebration of the Dragon Ball Super Card Game, so you're not going to want to miss it. The other one is for organized play through the Pro Play Tour. We have the regional qualifier April 2nd in Kentucky. Shout out to the Midwest, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Shout out to PPG because they run awesome tournaments, but also besides that, this is a thing I've been concerned about in the past where these tournaments just don't get enough advertisement. So shout out to PPG for doing more and putting in more work to advertise these events. I hope to see you guys there. Let's get back into the video. Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going over my yellow Trunks build that I played over this past weekend at an absolutely phenomenal event. So basically what happened was Jimmy from the Hermit podcast, shout out to those guys, especially Jimmy for hosting this awesome event. He asked me if I wanted to participate in a charity stream where all the proceeds were going towards an American suicide prevention program. So absolutely incredible cause. Jimmy's an awesome guy. So are all those guys at Hermit Style. I was very, very happy to participate and to help out. So basically what happened was we decided we would show off some set 16 decks. So I played yellow Trunks, my opponent Sublet played red U7 Goku, and we battled it out. It was pretty cool. The other point of this was to kind of be like a sideboarded best of one, so you'll see some cards in this deck that I did put in here specifically for that matchup. But overall, we'll go over the build. I did have a build on the Patreon. This is going to be a little bit different, and I'll mention those differences throughout the video. And I think what I'm also going to do is I think I'm also going to put a Patreon article out maybe in a couple days that details that matchup in particular, the yellow Trunks matchup versus red U7 Goku, because those are two very strong, if not the strongest decks coming out of set 16. So it's a matchup that you'll probably see often from either side, depending on which deck you decide to play, right? So if you guys want to support the channel or just, look out for that article, make sure to check out the Patreon down in the description. Anyways, let's get into this. We have the yellow Trunks leader, which I mentioned on that podcast, which, by the way, I'm going to link the video down below. It's like 8 hours if you want to watch the whole thing, but I played in the first match, so you guys can watch that pretty quickly if you want to. But yeah, I did mention in the after the game interview that I do think overall this yellow Trunks style deck is a bit of a step down from Icarus. The Trunks deck does offer you a lot of power in the battle cards and in the leader, don't get me wrong, but the lack of draw is very, very noticeable, at least for me. There are definitely some times where you can have a huge hand, as most yellow decks can get, but Icarus gave it to you for free, where this leader you got to work for it a little bit more, but still a very strong yellow deck in my opinion. So anyways, going into the main deck, we have our one power over Super Saiyan. Of course, we're going to play the one that we can. So because this goes to one, we have to really focus on our extra card lineup to see what we want to do for allowing Mecha Frieza Robotic Riposte and Steadfast Goku to be online. So we're playing 3 Frieza Army Reinforcements. This card's a lot more important now that power is at 1 because it's one of our only free extra cards, and it does generate a really, really good value for that blocker token, right? So our leader naturally goes to 6 when we use our alternate awaken. We'll probably take 1 damage and go to 5 in most matchups, and then we'll be able to use Frieza Army Reinforcements from there. Pretty solid. 2 Vegeta's Final Flash. If you guys saw the game or if you guys go and watch it now, you guys will know this card was absolutely super clutch. It is a little bit more difficult to use because sometimes that energy can be tough to manage, because you do have a lot of things in this deck where you want to spend energy offensively, spend energy defensively, and a lot of what it takes to play a mid-range deck like this well is to have a lot of knowledge of what your opponent's strategy is trying to do on a given turn, so you can manage your energy and allot certain energy for certain plays based on what you have in your hand, right? So the fact that I was able to do that with this Final Flash definitely came in clutch. I did get very lucky though, hitting it off the life, I do have to say. But anyways, 3 Black Kamehameha. So this card, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. There's no two ways around it. It is it does more than Power Over Super Saiyan in terms of it taps 2 battle cards defensively, but you have to pay the energy for it, right? So that's, again, where that kind of crux comes in. You have to make sure you're managing your energy correctly. But this card is super, super strong, especially against a deck like U7 Goku, where they can go very, very aggressive with many battle cards. This card can pick up a lot of value just in that matchup alone. Then next up, we have 4 Robotic Riposte. Of course, we play all these extra cards, not only because they're good cards, but so they can make our Robotic Riposte cost 1 as opposed to 3. I don't really have to tell you guys if you've been playing for a couple months now, this card is absolutely snapped in half broken, but against U7 Goku in particular, this card's actually not quite as good because they run many answers to this card. They have Broly Crown Retribution, so if you leave more than 2 energy or more than 1 energy open, they're gonna be able to look at your hand, take any copies of these that they want, as well as other cards they might want to take out. They also have Vegeta Resolve Renewed, which is a new card that's picking up a lot of popularity. Basically on 3 energy, it's a Beerus Ball that also has combo power, so it's very, very strong for stopping floodgates like this and Oceanus, for example. And the other thing they have is they're able to main deck Koitsukai very, very well because they're a mill deck, and their leader can also just discard it for free at any point if they happen to draw it. So in that matchup, Riposte is not as great, but you'll still have good opportunities to use the card. It just kind of depends, like, you know, what your energy state is, what your opponent's energy state is, and, you know, the board state and stuff like that. So you got to kind of manage that well. So next up, we have 4 copies of Vegeta Father-Son Teamwork. Of course, we're playing it, helps us awaken early, as well as just being able to revive it constantly from our drop area is how we kind of gain that value, kind of like Icarus did, but it comes in play in rest mode, so it's not that immediate type of value, but it does set up some nice plays, like, for example, SSB Vegeta Future on the line. So this is one of the changes I made from this list to the list that I posted on the Patreon a few weeks ago. I'm leaning much more heavily into the Trunks engine in this build than I did in the Patreon build, and that's because in this list, I've cut the Slug engine. I still think it's really good, but I wanted to try something a bit different and just really lean fully into the Trunks engine, because of, you know, it being a tournament where we kind of, or a match where we wanted to showcase the new set 16 strategy. I still think the Slug engine's good, but it's always going to be an engine that's better or worse depending on meta. So it's possible that it's not necessary in the main deck going into set 16 Realm of the Gods format. It's possible that it is. We'll have to kind of just keep an eye on that, and this is maybe where you can trim 1 or 2 slots to fit that Slug engine in if you wanted to. Then we have 4 copies of Trunks Father-Son Teamwork. Same thing, I bumped this up to 4 from the Patreon list because we cut the Slug engine. And again, you want to be reviving this non-stop off of your leader. And yeah, that's just how you generate a lot of value. Then we have 4 copies of S2 Trunks Future on the line. So this whole lineup here, very, very consistent. Basically, you want to be reviving the corresponding Trunks or Vegeta, whichever one you need. And then you can go into your corresponding Evolve, depending on what you need. So if you need removal, you go into Vegeta. If you want to, you know, kind of stall your opponent and prevent their plays, you're going to go into the Trunks to have that pseudo Poutine effect. That's really good. The other great thing is that these just replace themselves on Evolve, which is how you generate a lot more of your hand size. So that is a really, really strong thing these cards have going for them as well. 4 copies of Goku Steadfast Assistance just to pair with our Robotic Riposte. I'm pretty big on 3 of this. I wanted to try 4 this time around because I thought it would be good against the matchup. But yeah, 3 to 4 of this. I mean, if you have it too early and your opponent's not really making too many plays, it's not that great. But, you know, U7 Goku and Gogeta Xeno, which is another example, they can drop some pretty big battle cards pretty early on. So having this early is not always going to be a bad thing. So I can see 4 to 3 of this, depending on if you want to create space. I think this list is 53 or 54 cards, so I wouldn't mind chopping it down to maybe 52 if I had to, you know, conserve some space. Then we have 4 super combos. Of course, you're just going to play them. 4 Turles All Too Easy. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about before a little bit, where you have a lot of things you want to spend your energy on offensively. Turles being a somewhat expensive commitment, especially on turn 3, where you'll only have 1 energy going into your opponent's turn. And a lot of times that 1 energy can just be your post, and then your opponent's turn is kind of over. But again, depending on matchup, like U7 Goku in particular is a tougher matchup in that respect, because that 1 energy, they can do so much to stop it. They have tons of counter plays. They have Broly Crown. If you have more than 1 energy open, they have the Resolve Renewed, stuff like that. So they can do a lot of stuff to interact with your defenses, which is what makes this feel at least a little bit more expensive. 1 Swift Retaliation Cooler. Yeah, I mean, it's just always good, right? I mean, Red U7 Goku is possibly a matchup where you could side it out because they have very, very good negates, but they're not always like turn-ending negates. Like U7 Goku hasn't been seen playing a lot of Topo, maybe Violent Rays, but our deck's not super, super impacted by Violent Rays, although it would be nice to be able to stop it if we could. So yeah, 1 Cooler is definitely fine. The 1 Bergamo, this is actually pretty funny. So Sublet actually took it out of my hand with one of his Broly Crowns. I think that game he dropped 2 or 3 Broly Crowns on me across the course of the whole game. But yeah, I mean, another card that's absolutely incredible. I mean, yellow is kind of becoming the color of one-ofs, but it can be a little bit expensive again. And it's a little bit tougher to set up now that Power of a Super Saiyan is limited to 1. There's not as much free ways to rest things as there were before. But now we can kind of lean into Trunks Future on the line to try and help do that. But, you know, you have to invest the energy earlier to, you know, get that thing in play, but still very, very good. The 1 Poutine, of course, just to, you know, pair with Trunks. So this combo is actually really, really cool because Trunks has to hit the card being played It doesn't have the option like Poutine where you can hit any battle card as long as its auto is triggered. But the cool thing you do is if you have both in play and your opponent plays a battle card by a skill, you can use Trunks to rest the battle card they're playing and then Poutine to rest any of their other battle cards. So that can generate you a lot of value defensively for free again. And because we have power at 1, our free defenses are a little bit lacking. So that's a pretty cool combo to just, kind of sit on in certain matchups, especially if they can't answer barrier. Then we have Secret Identity Mass Sand, just 2 copies. I think this is just the go-to overall right now. Again, being in a more mid-rangey format, you want to be able to pick off your opponent's board when you need to. And U7 Goku actually plays a lot of 1-drops. Broly Crown, Android 17, 1-drop Gohan that searches for them. So this card can generate a lot of value in the matchup, but I would just still main deck 2 anyway. I think it's the right overall to play. 1 for Instruction Champa. I mentioned in the Patreon article that I kind of want to try 0 because our leader has a built-in Champa, but in that game, I was actually driven to use it defensively because I didn't have any super combos in hand, so I couldn't really defend all that well without using the leader effect. But still, like the 1 Champa plus the 1 leader effect, the Champa gives you the nice flexibility of being able to dump a full combo on a battle card or a unison, something like that. 1 copy of Pan Time Patrol Maiden. There are lots of SCRs you can play this deck. You could play Heroine's Lineage if you want to be more on a budget, but honestly, if you're on a budget, I probably wouldn't recommend playing yellow. But yeah, you can play Pan, you can play Kai if you think that unisons are going to be a problem. There's a couple other SCRs you can play as well that are a bit more generic. I probably wouldn't recommend playing the new Mira SCR out of set 16 because that one is just a bit too expensive for what this deck's trying to do. I think the only really great place for that unison, that SCR, is going to be in Golden Frieza, where you can get energy back after playing it. That seems like the best case usage for it. In a deck like this, where your energy is very, very precious, I probably would not want to use your SCR slot on that if you can help it. If it's the only SCR you have, that's okay, you have to play it. But also, Super 17 is another good SCR in this deck because it costs 1 and basically gives you a cold bloodlust type of effect. That's actually really good as well. 2 copies of Trunks Unison. Never ended up playing it in that U7 matchup, but I think it's still pretty solid if they end up getting too wide of a board on you. And if you go first, I do think that's going to be very, very helpful to get this guy established, start picking off their 4s and lesses with the +0. That seems pretty good. And now here are my 2 tech cards for the matchup that I may very well side in any IRL events that I take this deck to. We have 2 copies of Forbidden Power and 2 copies of Hellfighter 17, the Neutralizer. So the Forbidden Power is basically my quote-unquote out to Koitsukai and to Broly Crown and to Vegeta Resolve Renewed, because they can't interact with this card, right? Red doesn't really have ways to interact with extra card floodgates, so I wanted to have that in my deck just so that I had an answer if he happened to have everything to stop my Robotic Riposts and my other forms of defense. So that was really good there. And Hellfighter 17, so basically this is a counterplay, and all the counterplay does is play the card, but then the auto is the other important thing. You choose a battle card, and then you basically negate its skills. So it's kind of like a Cold Bloodlust, but it doesn't stop enter play autos. But that's perfectly fine. The main reason I teched this in was for Goku Ultra Mastery, because yes, it would come down for 4 and basically wipe my entire board of anything that didn't have barrier, but Hellfighter 17 would prevent it from getting the dual attack double strike and the ability to look at my hand. So that was just my answer to Ultra Mastery. And once he Broly crowned me and saw this card in my hand, he realized, okay, I probably can't go into Ultra Mastery unless my opponent has 2 or less than 2 energy open. So that was a pretty good play there. The other cool thing too is this guy's effect also says if he's removed from the field, he also procs his auto again. So you counterplay this, Ultra Mastery comes down, kills the Hellfighter 17. You get to negate the Ultra Mastery's effect because it was played. And then you also get to negate the skills of another battle card because it was removed from the field. So kind of like a pretty cool double up effect in that particular matchup. But anyways, guys, yeah, that's the deck that I played. Again, I think I'm going to go into this matchup very, very in depth on the Patreon because I think there's a lot of intricacies in this matchup depending on who goes first or second, how you open, stuff like that. So I think I'll get into that on there. But if you have any questions about the list, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Alright, now that you guys finished watching that video, Bandai ruined all my favorite leaders. Super Shenron, King Vegeta, Mecha Frieza Cell Surge. They're fair. They weren't broken. No one complained.
God dang, no, not again, not again!
Bandai, please stop!